Back, same time, same station, Srimad Bhagavatam, great histories, great personalities of the avatars or incarnations of God and their activities in the world. So, this particular chapter, chapter 3, we're going to be reading tonight, um, is Hiranyakashi's plans to become immortal. Let's see how that works out for him, by the way. And then we're going to read chapter 3 and chapter 4. Hiranyakashi terrorizes the universe. So these two chapters, they're about 90 verses, but some of the verses are pretty long. So be ready to read, okay? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaurivani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunivari Paschachari Shatanane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shridvati Giridhara Shivasri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, chapter 3, Canto 7, Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. I'll take 15 or 20, and then everybody grab some too. Text 1. Narada Muni said to Maharaj Yudhisthira, the demoniac king Hiranyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all of the yogic perfections like anima and lahima, to be deathless, and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka.
We're going to start at 8 o'clock.
Can you guys push your mute button if you don't mind? Good to have you with us. We're so happy you're here. Just press mute. All right, text 2. In the valley of Mandara Hill, Hiranyakashipu began performing his austerities by standing with his toes on the ground, keeping his arms upward and looking towards the sky. This position was extremely difficult, but he accepted it as a means to attain perfection. From the hair on Hiranyakashipu's head, there emanated an effulgent light, as brilliant and intolerable as the rays of the sun at the time of dissolution. Seeing the performance of such austere penances, the demigods who had been wandering throughout the planets now returned to their respective homes. Because of Hiranyakashipu's severe austerities, fire came from his head, and this fire and this smoke spread throughout the sky, encompassing the upper and lower planets, which all became extremely hot. Because of the power of his severe austerities, all the rivers and oceans were agitated. The surface of the globe, with its mountains and islands, began trembling, and the stars and planets fell. All directions were ablaze. Scorched and extremely disturbed because of Hiranyakashipu's severe penances, all the demigods left the planets where they reside and went to the planet of Lord Brahma, where they informed the Creator as follows. O Lord of the demigods, O Master of the universe, because of the fire emanating from Hiranyakashipu's head as a result of his severe austerities, we have become so disturbed that we could not stay in our own planets, but have come to you. O great person, chief of the universe, if you think it proper, kindly stop these disturbances meant to destroy everything, because or before all your obedient subjects are annihilated. Hiranyakashipu has undertaken a most severe type of austerity. Although his plan is not unknown to you, kindly listen as we submit his intentions. The supreme person within the universe, Lord Brahma, has gotten his exalted post by dint of severe austerities, mystic power, and trance. Consequently, after creating the universe, he has become the most worshipable demigod within it. Since I am eternal and time is eternal, I shall endeavor for such austerity, mystic power, and trance for many, many births, and thus I shall occupy the same post occupied by Lord Brahma. By dint of my severe austerities, I shall reverse the results of impious and pious activity. I shall overturn all the established practices within this world. Even Dhruvaloka will be vanquished at the end of the millennium. Therefore, what is the use of it? I shall prefer to remain in the position of Brahma. O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakasipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of all the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and the brahmanas. Brahminical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. O king, being thus informed by the demigods, the most powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by Bhrigu, Daksha, and other great sages, immediately started for the place where Hiranyakashipu was performing his penances and austerities. So who would like to pick it up at 15 and 16? Verse 15.
You know, I always jump in.
Jump. We've been waiting for
Jump.
you. Yeah. Come on now.
You poor guy. Oh, you poor guy. Lord Brahma, who was carried by a swan airplane, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was, for Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill, by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been here for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, eating all the world by his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up. Please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. You may now ask me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. I've been very much astonished to see your endurance. In spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of worms and ants, you are keeping your life air circulating within your bones. Certainly, this is wonderful. Even saintly persons like Bhrigu, born previously but could not perform such severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so, who within these three worlds can sustain this life without even drinking water for 100 celestial years. My dear son of deity, with your great determination and austerity, you have done what was impossible, even for great saintly persons, and thus I have certainly been conquered by you. O great of the Asuras, by this reason I am now prepared to give you all benedictions, according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of demigods, who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. Srimad Muni continued. After speaking these words to Hiranyakashipu, Lord Brahma, the original being of the universe, was extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible spiritual water from Kamandadala upon Hiranyakashipu's body, who had been eaten away by ants and moths. Thus he enlivened Hiranyakashipu. As soon as he was sprinkled with the water from Lord Brahma's water pot, Hiranyakashipu arose, endowed with a full body with limbs so strong that they could bear the striking of a thunderbolt. With physical strength and bodily luster resembling molten gold, he emerged from the anthill, a completely young man, just as fire springs from fuel wood. Seeing Lord Brahma present from him in the sky, carried by his swan airplanes, Hiranyakashipu was extremely pleased. He immediately fell flat with his head on the ground and began to express his obligation to the Lord. Then, getting up from the ground and seeing Lord Brahma before him, the head of Dayachas was overwhelmed by jubilation. With tears in his eyes, his whole body shivering, began praying in a humble mood, folded hands and faltering voice to satisfy Lord Brahma. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord within his universe. At the end of each day, the universe is fully covered with the dense darkness of the effulgence of time, and then again, during the next day, the self-effulgent Lord, by his own effulgence, maintains, and destroys the entire cosmic manifestation through the material energy which is now invested with the three modes of material nature. He, Lord Brahma, is the shelter of these modes of nature, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. Shall I continue?
We're taking like 10 or 15 each.
That's 13 or 14. I'm happy to continue.
Yeah. Do we
I
have
offer,
somebody else that
yeah,
wants?
I'll do two more.
Okay.
I offer my obeisances to the original personality within his universe, Lord Brahma, who is cognizant of who can apply his mind and realize intelligence in creating this cosmic manifestation. It is because of his activities that everything within the universe is visible. He is therefore the cause of all manifestations. Your Lordship, being the origin of life of this material world, is the master and controller of the living entities, both moving and stationary. And you inspire their consciousness. You maintain the mind and the acting of the knowledge, acquiring senses. And therefore, you are the great controller of all the material elements and their qualities. You are the controller of all desires. I end here.
That's good. Thank you. You did a good job. Good to hear your voice. Okay. Vamsi, are you ready?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad
Hi,
Pranam.
good to see you. Direct from Memphis, Tennessee. So
Yeah.
happy to have you here.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, text 30. My dear Lord, by your form as the Vedas personified and through knowledge relating to the activities of all the yogic brahmanas, you spread the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of the 7 kinds of sacrifices headed by Agni Stoma. Indeed, you inspire the yogic brahmanas to perform the rituals mentioned in the 3 Vedas. Being the supreme soul, the super soul of all living beings, you are beginningless, endless, and omniscient beyond the limit of time and space. O my Lord, your Lordship is eternally awake, seeing everything that happens. At eternal time, you reduce the duration of life for all living entities through your different parts, such as moments, seconds, minutes, and hours in one place as the super soul. Witness the supreme Lord, the birthless, all-pervading controller, who is the cause of life for all living entities. There is nothing separate from you, whether it is better or lower, stationary or moving. The knowledge derived from the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and from all the sublimbs of the original Vedic knowledge form your external body. You are Hiranyagarbha, the reservoir of the universe, but nonetheless, being situated as the supreme controller, you are transcendental to the material world, which consists of the 3 modes of material nature. O my Lord, being changelessly situated in your own abode, you expand your universal form within this cosmic manifestation, thus appearing to taste the material world. You are Brahman, the Supersoul, the oldest, the personality of Godhead. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who in his unlimited, unmanifested form has expanded the cosmic manifestation, the form of the totality of the universe. He possesses external and internal energies and the mixed energy called the marginal potency, which consists of all the living entities. O my Lord, O best of the givers of benediction, if you will kindly grant me the benediction I desire, please let me not meet death from any of the living entities created by you. Grant me that I not die within my residence or outside my residence, during the daytime or at night, nor on the ground or in the sky. Grant me that my death not be bought by any being other than those created by you, nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal. Grant me that I not meet death from any entity, living or non-living. Grant me further that I not be killed by any demigod or demon or by any great snake from the lower planets, since no one can kill you in the battlefield. You have no competitor. Therefore, grant me the benediction that I too may have no rival. Give me sole lordship over all living entities and presiding deities. and give me all the glories obtained by that position. Furthermore, give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and the practice of yoga, for these cannot be lost at any time.
Very good. Very good. So you want to keep reading in the next chapter? We're going to continue with chapter 4.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhuji. Narada Muni continued, Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benediction, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Then Lord Brahma, who awards infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. The demon Hiranyakashipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, that great demon conquered all the planets in the three worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, the Charanas, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraj, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishachas, and their masters, and the master of the ghosts and bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquered the abodes of all, he seized their power and influence. Hiranyakashipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace has been directly constructed by the demigod architect Vishwakarma and was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. Take a few more, Prabhuji, or
Well, let me just say tonight we're missing a large group of our people who are in Carolina, and they can't be here tonight because they've got infrastructure issues and power issues. Although we saw Ram Raghava show up a little while ago, he has disappeared at this point. So it's going to kind of be up to a smaller crowd tonight. You can read about 5 or 6 more if you'd like, and then we'll pass it around. Rangavati's next.
Okay. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral, the floors were bedecked with invaluable emeralds, the walls were of crystal, and the columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk beddings, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisances at the feet of Hiranyakashipu, who chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason.
I want
Thus,
to make a hoot.
the Hiranyakashipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Oh, my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands.
Excellent. Thank you. And you might respond to your young son there.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rangavati, you're next, text 14. Thank you so much, Vamsi. We might call on you again in a minute, by the way. We've got a few more to go.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
O Maharaj Yudhisthira, descendant of Pandu, by dint of his personal power, Hiranyakashipu, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of all the other planets, the two Gandharvas, Vishvavasu, and Tumvaru. I myself and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras, and sages all offered prayers to him again and again, just to glorify him. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly followed the principles of Varna and Ashram, Hiranyakashipu, instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigods, accepted them himself. As if in fear of Hiranyakashipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being ploughed. Thus it resembled cows like the Surabhi and of the spiritual world, or the Karma Dukha of heaven. The earth yielded sufficient food, grains, and cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. By the flowing of their waves, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu to use. These oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugarcane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying, and burning, which are all qualities of the 3 departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied, because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. Hiranyakashipu thus passed a long time being very much proud of his opulences and transgressing the laws and regulations mentioned in the authoritative sastras. He was therefore subjected to a curse by the 4 Kumaras, who were great Brahmanas. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the direction where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated, where those purified souls in the renounced order of life, the great saintly persons, go, and from which, having gone, they never return. Without sleep, fully controlling their minds and living on only their breath, the predominating deities of the various planets began worshipping Hirikesh with this meditation. Persikesh with this meditation. Then there appeared before them a transcendental sound vibration emanating from a personality not visible to material eyes. The voice was as grave as the sound of a cloud, and it was very encouraging, driving away all fear. The voice of the Lord vibrated as follows: O best of learned persons, do not fear. I wish all good fortune to you. Become my devotees by hearing and chanting about me and offering my prayers, for these are certainly meant to award benedictions to all living entities. I know all about the activities of Hiranyakasipu and shall surely stop them very soon. Please wait patiently until that time. Shall I stop there and let someone else go? Oh, we
Yeah.
should have lost Jai Krishna, Prabhu.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to have to just grab it by the reins tonight. I can read a few more.
Everyone's dropping out.
Some days are better than others. What can you do? Prabhupada said, preach to the wall if nobody comes. Now, last week we had over about a dozen people here.
Yeah,
so
we had 11 people. Yes, yeah.
you never know, you never know. So, okay, I'll read a few and then we'll go back to Vamsi, okay? Unless Bob is sitting over there chomping at the bit.
Want to read?
Oh, I can read a couple, I guess.
Yeah, he's going to read some.
Okay, I could see Bob wants to get engaged. There you go.
This is number 27. When one is envious of the demigods who represent the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Vedas, which give all knowledge, of the cows, Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas, and religious principles, and ultimately of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he and his civilization will be vanquished without delay. When Hiranyakashipu teases the great devotee Prahlad, his own son, who is peaceful and sober and who has no enemy, I shall kill Hiranyakashipu immediately, despite the benedictions of Brahma. The great saint Narada Muni continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master of everyone, thus reassured all the demigods living in the heavenly planets, they offered the respectful obeisances unto him and returned confident that the demon Hiranyakashipu was now practically dead. Hiranyakashipu had 4 wonderful, well-qualified sons, of whom one was named Prahlad. Was the best. Indeed, Prahlad was the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, because he was an unalloyed devotee of the Supreme Personality, not no Supreme there, but of the Personality of Godhead. Can he read? The qualities of Maharaj Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had control of his senses and mind. Like the Supersoul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend to everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attracted like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. Although Prahlad Although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of Asuras, he himself was not an Asura, a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other Asuras, he was never envious of the Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly nor indirectly interested in the fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and the life air, and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires. O King Prahlad Maharaj's good qualities were still glorified by learned saints and Vaishnavas, as all good qualities are always found existing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They also exist forever in his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. In any assembly, there are discourses about saints and devotees, O King Yudhisthira. Even the enemies of the demons, namely the demigods, what to speak of you, would cite Prahlad Maharaj as an example of a great devotee. Who could list the innumerable transcendental qualities of Prahlad Maharaj? He had unflinching faith in Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, and alloyed devotion to him. His attachment to Lord Krishna was natural because of his previous devotional service. Although his good qualities cannot be enumerated, they prove that he was a great soul. Can we keep going?
Vamsi, would you like to read just these last ones? We only have a few left. 37.
Yes, Prabhuji. No. From the very beginning of his childhood, Prahlad Maharaj was uninterested in childish playthings. Indeed, he gave them up altogether and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on, being fully absorbed in the activities of sense gratification. Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking were being automatically performed. Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, and sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. Sometimes, upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy, and sometimes, being fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. Sometimes, feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hair standing on end and tears gliding down from his half-closed eyes because of his love for the Lord. Because of this, his association with perfect, unalloyed devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlad Maharaj constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. By seeing his bodily features when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. In other words, Prahlad Maharaj bestowed upon them transcendental bliss. My dear King Yudhishthira, the demon Hiranyakasipu tormented this exalted, fortunate devotee, although Prahlad was his own son. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, O best of the saints among the demigods, O best of spiritual leaders, how did Hiranyakashipu give so much trouble to Prahlad Maharaj, the pure and exalted saint, although Prahlad was his own son? I wish to know about this subject from you. A father and mother are always affectionate to their children. When the children are disobedient, the parents chastise them, not due to enmity, but only for the child's instruction and welfare. How did Hiranyakashipu, the father of Prahlad Maharaj, chastise such a noble son? This is what I'm eager to know. Maharaj Yudhishthira further inquired, how was it possible for a father to be so violent towards an exalted son who was obedient, well-behaved, and respectful to his father? O Brahmana, O master, I have never heard of such a contradiction as an affectionate father punishing his noble son with the intention of killing him. Kindly dissipate our doubts in this regard.
That's pretty good. These two chapters are amazing, aren't they? I love this story. This is one of my very favorite stories in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Probably the most famous story in Srimad Bhagavatam in a way, other than, of course, Krishna. You know about Nrsimhadeva and Krishna. Those are very, very popular. So this is quite wonderful. So does anybody have any comment or any kind of illumination or anything you'd like to share? Or you can just kind of chime in at any time you want as we go back over these two chapters.
I was wondering, where did Hiranyakasipu do his austerities? Was that on our planet or somewhere else? And if it was on our planet, you know where?
Well, I think it was on the Earth planet because it said that the Earth planet, out of fear, was producing all types of excessive fruits and vegetables and flowers and all of this stuff in all four seasons. So I'm guessing if it wasn't on the Earth planet, it still had an effect on the Earth planet. It certainly had an effect on the entire universe because in the chapter it said that the demigods had been traveling, doing their services up interplanetary, which modern society seems to be pretty amazed at that. But the Vedas actually say this has been going on since time immemorial. So it's nothing new for them. Everybody here is worried about the question of aliens or some crazy thing. They have no idea what they're talking about. They just need to open the Vedic literature and read, and they can understand. So definitely the demigods were distressed. The whole planet was distressed. There was fire emanating from ahead. The heat was burning up the universe. And so they went back home and they gathered their posse, as it were, of demigods, and they went to see Lord Brahma. And when they got to see Lord Brahma, of course, this story goes on again and again and again. Before long, the voice of God is reverberated in the environment, and he tells them, don't worry about it. I'm coming to kill this guy. It's not going to be a problem. And this happens all the time. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, Krishna, they have to go. They have to be worn out first. They have to realize they're helpless. They have to surrender to God. And then once they get completely exasperated, have no other place to turn, finally they turn to Vishnu, but they go through Brahma to do that. Normally, he chants the Purusha Shukta prayers, which we're all familiar with, right? And then a voice is emanated to him, and then he gives it to the other devotees. In this case, the voice of God directly reverberated, and I thought that was very interesting, didn't you, Vamsi? What do you think about that? That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, going to the Supreme Lord with any wishes instead of the demigods, I think is one of the important lessons, because Hiranyakashipu was mistakenly calling Brahma the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and describing all the features of the Supreme Lord as Paramatma, impersonal Brahman, and everything. He was uh, unknowingly calling Brahma that, and we're going to see what happens to him. So, for all those people who think that they can just worship anyone and get by, I think this is a lesson that you need to go to the Supreme Lord and not anybody else.
I love that. I love that because if you go to the demigods and you don't acknowledge the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says that's atheism.
Yeah.
That's atheism. I mean, because you're thinking there's someone higher than the one without a second, right? Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. So Brahma says that the one without a second is Krishna. So the demigods are all subservient to the Lord, and they get all their powers. I mean, otherwise, why would they go to the Lord and ask for their help? I mean, if Brahma could have done it, why didn't he just do it?
Yeah.
He couldn't do it. So basically, what you're saying, and I like this point, Vamsi, is that Hiranyakasipu was trying to become Brahma. He accepted Brahma as the supreme personality of the universe. He actually called him the supreme personality of God or of this universe. So he is. I mean, and Brahma's empowered by Krishna to expand in trillions and trillions of universes. I read in the Bhagavatam that generally speaking, there's a jiva soul available to handle that position. But when there's not, Krishna himself takes that role, and he comes in that form as the creator, as Brahma. So yeah, no, very, very good point. And people need to understand that they're called demigods for a reason. If you look up the word demi, what does it mean? It means that they don't have all the power. They have partial power. They have a portion of it. So they're empowered, and sometimes they become puffed up. We see this happen with Indra fairly regularly because he's being worshipped just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the material universe. And what did Hiranyakasipu want? He wanted to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this universe. He wanted to control even Brahmaloka, right? That's what he said he wanted to do. So what did he do? Perform this austerity. Brahma comes on his swan carrier, right? And so Hiranyakasipu offers excellent prayers, and they're actually meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he addresses Brahma as if he were the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he thought he could get immortality from Brahma. So therefore, Brahma, but what did Brahma say to him? He said, when he offered him the benediction, he said, although you are subject to death, he told him. After he gave this elaborate, don't kill me inside, outside, and the scare. No, Brahma says, although you are subject to death, your audience with me will not go in vain. In other words, I'm willing to grant all the boons that you asked, but the caveat that although you, sir, Hiranyakashipu, are subject to death. So he laid it on him, but Hiranyakashipu's not listening. He's not paying any attention. He's there to do business, and he wants to rule everything. And so, very good point. Very, very good point. So this is a great story. I mean, we could go on for years about this story and never get enough. But Hiranyakashipu's plan was to become immortal. Tried to trick Brahma to do that. He wanted to be free of old age. He wanted to be deathless. He wanted to be the only king. He wanted to take over Brahmaloka. He did take over Indraloka. He sat in the throne of Indra, and he milked the universe for all its resources. And as he took the elements of sacrifice, which are generally then distributed to the demigods, their portions, he kept it for himself. He didn't give anything to anybody, kept it all for himself, and he turned these beautiful places of pilgrimage into pleasure, fields of pleasure, so that he could enjoy strong liquor. As a matter of fact, the smell of liquor, strong wines and liquor permeated it, the environment with soft beds and so many different things. Hiranyakashipu, would you know what it means?
Yeah, gold soft bed.
Yeah. Gold and soft beds, yeah. So what did the demon want? He wanted gold and he wanted soft beds. He wanted to enjoy sensual pleasure within the material world without God. He wanted to become God. And he wanted to overturn all the established practices of religion in the universe, and everybody simply worship him. Just sound like anybody we know, Most all of us demons want that. We want to just turn it all over. Democracy's doing a great job of destroying any kind of rule and regulation. Everything goes now. What do you want? Okay, vote for me. I'll give it to you. What do you want? No problem. You got it. The legal drug? Oh, we'll make them legal. It's not a problem. Whatever. What do you want? You want to gamble? Oh, sure, no problem. You can gamble. It's legal now. prostitution, yeah, whatever you want, no problem. Have all you want, right? The promise of capitalism, the democracy. I call it demonocracy. The demons are voting to change the law to make laws less stringent so that they can commit all nonsense and not have to suffer punishment. And they'll vote for whoever will guarantee that for them. Of course, they never deliver, mostly. Sometimes they do. So the demigods then, because of his austerity, they were forced into submission. And they were suffering. Everybody was suffering terribly. So they went to Brahman. They told him, said, look, if you don't get this worked out, he's going to take over your spot, and that's not going to work. Everything will go to chaos then. So he was bent on the destruction of the world, wasn't he? Hiranyakasipu was actually bent on the destruction of the world. If we look at the Bhagavad Gita, specifically in the chapter called The Divine and Demoniac Natures, chapter 16, you can see in text 4 that pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance are the qualities that belong to the demoniac nature. So ignorance, he's over here giving all the philosophy. He knows the philosophy. And Asuras in ancient time were actually, they knew all about God as well. They knew about the axioms of God. They knew about the history. But they had made a choice that they wanted to enjoy in the material world separate of the Lord. Therefore, they were envious of the Lord and were always against the demigods who were for the Lord. The demigods are on God's side. I mean, they're actually carrying out God's mission in the material world. So in one place it says there's 33 million demigods in the universe. And in another place it says there's like 90 million demigods in the universe. What do you know about that, Vamsi? Have you heard any different thing?
I've heard it's 330 million. It's like 33 crores in the Indian language, so it's like 330 million. So it's so difficult. If demigod worship, you can't in your whole life go worship all these demigods. Why not just go to Krishna?
So why not take instead of taking the staircase up to the 100th floor, why not just get the elevator and go right to the penthouse? That's Krishna. So that's our philosophy. We're not climbing the stairs with great difficulty, going through what? Impersonal Brahman realization, going through a bunch of speculative knowledge, going down all these rabbit holes and these wormholes, simply to wake up empty-handed over life after life after life after life. How many times you want to do that? So take the voice of the spiritual master through these Vedic literatures, which have been translated without deviation as it is. And a person can know God perfectly well. They can see God. These people saw God directly before them. God came in various forms. He's getting ready to come as Nrsimhadeva in just a few minutes. And he's going to kill the demon. He's going to kill him, and it's going to be a wonderful thing. So he's talking about Hiranyakashipu's attitude. Now, Hiranyakashipu, obviously, he sustained his life within his bones, his flesh, his fat, all this was eaten away. Brahma was impressed. He was like, wow, that's pretty strong. He couldn't even find him when he first got there. It was a big anthill built all over him, right? Said he cleared away. It's like what they say, the sun inside of a basket or something. You couldn't tell, he was in there. So, but
clarity and determination that he was able to do all that even when his body was getting eaten. He was still focusing on his goal. But this kind of makes it clear that you need to have good goals. Otherwise, whatever you do is going to go waste.
Well, there's 3 modes, and what do you think? What mode do you think he's in? He's going through this horrible austerity, causing his body to be eaten alive. I mean, austerity that causes pain to the body. The super soul lives in the body. This is a temple of God. It's not yours. You don't own it. Krishna says, when you thus have become self-realized, you will know that everything is in me, everything is mine. This is all me. I'm expanding into this for the pleasure of rasa, and these people have tried to become envious and steal from God, take everything they want to kill God. We talked about it in the last chapter, that their goal is to kill God. What do you think Hiranyaksha went to do? He wanted to kill God. He actually went to the bottom of the sea where Varuna says, give me battle. And he goes, well, I'm old. I can't do it, but there is somebody who can. And he goes, oh, where is he at? Go bring me to it. So he was out looking for a fight with God, and God came as Varaha in that situation. So now Hiranyakasipu is the older brother. Actually, they were twins, but he was born prior, so he was the older brother. And he's going to take vengeance for his brother's death by Varaha. And he said once he severs the head of Vishnu, then the blood that spills out will be vindication for his brother's death. So he wants to chop off God's head. So you want to talk about meditation and envy? Remember we talked about these 5 ways in the last chapter? You did such a nice job of that too, Bonsi. I appreciate it. These 5 things. One of them is just enmity, which is a culmination of envy and, anger and all this kind of stuff. This is his attitude, avarice towards the Lord. And his mind was filled with that. And in some cases, they say that it's so intense that it's beyond many of the other rasas, is because it's so all-encompassing. When you have an enemy, you can't think of anything else. And so he was 100% Krishna conscious, but it wasn't favorable.
Right.
And it was affected by the modes of material ignorance and passion. And that's a problem. It's not going to work out. Never going to work out for you. Sorry.
One more observation here is we have never seen any benediction Krishna or Lord Vishnu gives which has gone in vain. In the sense, it's always trying to uplift the person. But we see that demigods, they give benedictions that are what a person wants, but not what they need. So they always run into problems with those benedictions. So in one sense, you could blame Brahma for giving all these benedictions to this demon, but then it's all a transcendental play, so you can't blame anybody. But
this is Krishna's arrangement. He actually wanted all these things to be set up for the play at hand. And the reason is all these pastimes are great lessons for all living entities to garner absolute truth from. When we were in Vrindavan way back in the 70s, before there was any new buildings, and it probably looked like it did thousands of years because the village was just ancient. But we would go by and every house would be having plays of Krishna and Radha and the cowherd boys and killing the demon, and all of this stuff. They're playing. You could just walk up and down the street and their family would come out fully dressed, beautiful, and then they would give prasad. So try to understand, this is our goal in life. What they're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be absorbing our minds in the Lord. Manmana bhava madbhakto. This is it. You gotta keep your mind focused on the Lord, because if it's distracted, there are literally unlimited distractions in the material world that will take you into another material body in one of 8,400,000 species of life, and you can just suffer all you want. And you can think, oh no, I'm going to have a beautiful family. Good luck. It's a lot of fun to watch the people you love die, right? I mean, I'm not being negative. I'm just telling you. Because, we turn on the TV, people are dying wholesale all over the world. We're so numb to it, we're not even affected. But, back in the old days before television and internet and all this nonsense, where we have instant so-called gratification, I call it instant misery, really, because it distracts us from the truth and takes us down to mostly somebody trying to sell you something. Have you ever noticed that? Everybody's got snake oil. They're trying to sell it to you. Now all these bogus yogis are coming out on the internet too, guys. And they got their little philosophy, boy, and they know the answer, or they're scientists, or they're this, or they're that, and they're misleading people and taking them off the cliff to have their skulls dashed on the rocks below. Because what they're giving the people is called Atmahana. Atmahana, killer of the soul. Now, you can't kill the soul, we know that, but you can entwine it and entangle it in the material universe is so long, it might as well be eternal, because time is eternal. You can stay here forever if you want. Not much going on here except for more death. How much of that did you want to see? That's the question. So these demons are bent on the destruction of the earth, of the world, the whole thing. And they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. And neither cleanliness, proper behavior, truth, nothing. Nothing is found in them, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. They even say that the whole world is unreal. And the only purpose of the world is sex desire. That's the real reason that we're here. There's no foundation. There's no God in control. You don't need no God. You just need a little sex life, a little lust. The only thing that's really valuable to these people is lust. And they say there's no other cause than this. They don't even believe there's any other cause. And when they follow these conclusions, they're not only lost to themselves, but they mislead everyone else and engage in horrible, unbeneficial works meant to destroy the world. Think about it. And we're watching this go on all around us. Turn on the news. I can't even do it. I can't turn it on. How many people died last night? Thousands. Why? Somebody lobbing bombs back at each. But why? Why? Tell me why. What's the purpose? What do you think you're going to accomplish by that? And they do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. If you look back in history, you will see that it is a series of, normally used to be monarchy. And when you had a saintly king in place, everything was beautiful. Everything produced. The rain came at the right time, the fruits, the vegetables, everybody had everything they wanted. All the items for sacrifice were there. They were a symbol. The sacrifices were going on. The world was happy. Everything was distributed back to society. Nobody had to steal. Nobody had to lie. They didn't have to cheat. They didn't have to do anything because the king dealt with them as if they were his own children. He loved them as if they were his own children. Think about it. And cared for them. But these people in the material world now, all of that digressed, by the way, from monarchy to dictatorship, totalitarianism. You can see just Stalin and Hitler. I mean, you're talking about 50, 100 million people being killed just wholesale. Unbelievable. And China, the same thing. You can look at it all throughout history. It's the same thing. The English come. They try to conquer the whole world. They massacre whole peoples. The so-called Christian crusaders come. They come massacre whole peoples. They come here for religious freedom and kill all the Indians, destroy their history, destroy their culture. Okay? Why? It's all based in envy. Krishna says it is lust only, Arjuna, which is the all-devouring enemy of mankind. If we don't know how is that lust, well, lust for land, lust for power, lust for, new world, conquer this, come and take your gold. That's what they did to those poor Incans. They took all their wealth, took all their books, took their leader in front of the assembly of people and mercilessly killed him in front of everyone. And then burned and destroyed their history. Now, we don't know how these buildings were built. We don't know where the history went. Why? Because some envious person who wants to control the world like Hiranyakasipu came in and caused everybody to fall in line with his insatiable desire for lust, greed, and envy within the material world, within the three modes of material nature. That's what happened. And it happened over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's why Krishna comes, yada hi dharmasha, glanir bhavati bharata, bhutanami dharmasha, tadatmanam shijamyaham, right? He's going to reestablish the principles of religion. He's going to come again and again. But these demons are taking shelter of insatiable lust. And they're completely conceited with their pride. Oh, I'll kill him. They think so many enemies have I killed so far, and I will kill the rest. It won't be long. I've consolidated my power here, and I've got so much wealth now, so much more I shall have in the future. Oh, here, I'll give a little charity. Don't worry. I'll give a little charity because I'm looking for the prestige, right? And that's what they want. They're being acknowledged amongst people, right? They want to be seen as some, humanitarian person when actually they're just wolves in sheep's clothing. See what I'm saying? And they're just exploited. And they believe that if they could just gratify their senses to the end, that's the prime necessity of humanity. There's no other goal in life. Nothing else to be done. And they've got hundreds and thousands of desires, and they're bound up by a network of these things. And they think that every one of those desires is going to bring them satisfaction. So they go ahead. They don't care. There's no God in control. They don't have to worry about it. They can get money by legal means. It's not a problem, right? They'll do any kind of abominable thing. And then they'll split the booty honestly amongst thieves. What a paradox, right? I mean, how can that be? They go steal, and then the guys who did all the stealing are going to split up the stolen goods honestly. Good luck with that. You see what I'm saying, guys? So in this situation, Hiranyakasipu had been given a brand new body because he was sprinkled with the transcendental water from the Kamandalu of Lord Brahma. Well, wouldn't it be nice to get a little bit of that water on your head, right? Woo-hoo. Go to that Arctic, right? So he gets a brand new body. It's beautiful. He's strong. He can withstand the thunderbolts. I mean, there's nothing that bothers him. He's not worried about anybody. And he gives these excellent prayers to the Lord. You got to admit, I mean, the absolute truth's pouring right out of his mouth, But it's all a business deal. It's all a manipulation. He's actually flattering Lord Brahma to try to get a little extra boon, Let me. In other words, it's like, hey, you give me a little bit, I'll give you a little bit. Wet my beak, I'll wet yours. That's what the mafia guys used to say. Oh, just wet my beak a little bit, It's just horrible, right? And he tried to trick Brahma. That didn't work out too good for him. So, but his audience with Brahma did not go in vain. That's a fact. And he got those boons. Now, what did he do with them? What did he do with those boons, right? Well, the first thing he did was he completely defeated all the demigods and ran them off. And he took the palace that Vishvakarma had made for Indra, and he occupied the throne. And he's just laid back, he's just a big guy. He's taking it easy, he's doing all the wine and the liquor and all the beautiful women and the gold and this and that. So he is consolidating his power and his opulence. And he chastised the demigods even for no reason because he's just so angry. Now, why is he angry, guys? Well, we know it's a pastime, but generally when your senses are unsatisfied, you're angry, right? If you ever watched an animal like a cat and they're hungry, if you try to come over and get a little bit of that food, that cat will whack you because they're not going to give you any of it. So that was his attitude. He was very angry. So they chastised the demigods for no reason. He was drunk almost all the time. And even though he was being worshipped by all the demigods, except for the primary three, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, they didn't worship. But all the rest of them worshiped. Now, somebody got a question? Was there a hand that went up?
Oh, so, no problem. So Hiranyakashipu, he had all the power, money, and resources to get pleasure, and he was looking for pleasure in the wrong place, trying to enjoy his senses, and still he was, like you said, angry and frustrated. So how do you get like a person with all these resources to just get a taste of the love of God so that they can switch from materialism to spiritual happiness, which is much cannot even be compared to what you get from enjoying your senses. Maybe that is a recipe for the world, somehow get them to enjoy spiritual happiness.
Well, let me tell you this, that it says that wherever Prahlad went, even the people who were ignorant, he distributed bliss because he was pure devotee. So the only real way that we're going to ever change the world is become pure devotees. You got to change yourself first. You can't go changing the world until you fix your own problems, right? So, otherwise we're just hypocrites. We're just walking around here, and that's what Kali Yuga is, age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So we're just adding to the hypocrisy. With great, stack them on top of each other, just like cordwood, Prabhupada said, when the Muslims and the Christians and the Hindus were fighting and so forth in India. He said they were just stacking them like cordwood after they were there and their families were destroyed. You couldn't tell which one was Muslim and which one was Hindu. You couldn't really tell. All that was just some kind of identification that was in their mind. It was just some consciousness that needed to be changed. Right? Because the devotees are kind of all living entities. Devotees are not out to be harsh and have all these bad qualities we talked about. So in this chapter and in the previous chapters, Prabhu, it says that by one moment's association with a pure devotee, one can then become attracted to the Lord. So really, you can spend hundreds of millions of lifetimes and still get no attraction to the Lord by developing jnana, knowledge. You can do all the pranayama, drill the breath all you want to. That's real nice. Drill the breath. Perform all the austerities you want to. Get all these lahima, mahima, get all these wonderful mystic powers. You can do that. But nothing impresses Krishna like that. He's not impressed by your power. He's not impressed by your wealth. He's not impressed by your austerity, really. All he is impressed is with the content of your heart and whether you actually are sincere and you have love and devotion in your heart. So the answer to your question, Prabhuji, is become a pure devotee, and then wherever you go, you're a desire tree, you're a touchstone. You're going to change the world, just like Prabhupada did. And I can attest this to you. In 1973 or 4, when Prabhupada was in America and was preaching, I felt like it was a tractor beam or some big, magnetic force or something pulling me towards him. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know any of the philosophy. Had no understanding of any of it, but I was gravitated to that to know more and more and more and more. And it's all by Prabhupada's mercy, all by his mercy. So, he had some use for me. So somehow or another, he tractor beamed me in, and I was able to distribute his books. But the devotee should take up, just like Jesus said, take up my cross and follow me. The devotee should become pure devotee. And in that way, he can also become a channel for that love of God to change the world. So what you're saying about Avansi is very important because he was unfulfilled and frustrated for one reason and one reason only, because he controlled the entire universe. He had everything. He had everything. So what was his problem? What was his problem? He wanted to rule all the planets, universe. He got it. So what was the matter now?
The envious of Krishna and wanting to kill him.
Well, that's part of it, obviously. But okay. So he wanted to be the most powerful controller anywhere, but he himself was controlled by what?
Oh, his own senses.
Thank you. So he was not the master of anything. He was the servant of his tongue, belly, and genital. And therefore, he was frustrated. Therefore, he was unfulfilled. And therefore, he was angry. And he mistreated everybody in a harsh way. So that's how that worked. And he milked Mother Earth for everything he could get out of her. And he still wasn't satisfied. She did it out of fear. And he took all the sacrifice, didn't give them to anybody. So this guy, man, he got cursed by the 4 Kumaras finally, right? Thank goodness he got cursed. And so that was good. And he put the demigods completely out of business, though. I mean, they were totally out of business. They had no service. They had nothing. Even Agni, Vayu, and Indra, they had no job. He took the job. He was doing it all himself. Just show him, I don't need you. Who do you think you are? So they finally, in utter frustration, they go see Brahma. And Brahma, you know, of course, he evokes the voice of God, the vibration of the voice of God, which said was like a cloud that, you know, it's like just had presence, like you can only imagine. So, and by the way, when they went to the Lord said, I already know all this. I knew it all along. You didn't even have to bother to come. Anybody who's a demon like that and doesn't take care of the Brahmins and the cows and stuff, I'm going to vanquish them and their civilization. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm going to do it immediately, as a matter of fact. That's what he said. I'm going to do it immediately. Now, immediate to Krishna in eternal time may take a minute, okay, because his minute and your minute might be a little different. But he'll vanquish it. And then he said, I will come and kill this demon, Hiranyakasipu, despite Brahma's boons. Despite it. I ain't scared of Brahma. Krishna ain't scared of Brahma. Brahma works for Krishna. They're buds. Right? So he knew what was going on. But so then what happens? So we find out in chapter 4 that Prahlad is a reservoir of all transcendental qualities, that he has every virtue in full, right? We're going to try to wind this up because I could go on for a while, but let's wind this up. So in text 31 and 32, it defines the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. So I'm going to recommend that you read that, okay? I'm not going to read it to you. I would if we had more time, because it's beautiful. Text 31 and 32, you need to read that. And then if you go back to the Bhagavad Gita and you want to find the qualities of a actual devotee, that is in the chapter, that's in text, 1 to 3. So if you go back to chapter 16, the divine and demonic natures, and you want to know what a devotee looks like, then you can find out spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, nonviolence, truthfulness, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These are the qualities of the devotees. They're godly men imbued with the divine nature. And I'm going to recommend you check that out. And then how Prahlad treated his peers and how he treated his superiors. He treated his superiors as if they were the supreme personality of Godhead directly. And he was compassionate to those who knew less, and he was a good, kind friend to those who were on the same level. So, but he always was absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and he was even unaware of his external bodily functions. He didn't really care. Just like if you've ever been riding down the highway and your mind is absorbed in thought, you don't see the road, you don't see the traffic lights, you don't see nothing. You wake up 20 minutes down the road and you've been thinking about some thought, you never even saw the road. So he was so absorbed in Krishna, he had that same experience. And as a result, because of his desire for the Lord, he manifests symptoms of ecstasy, which are known as horripilations. Horripilations. You hear a lot about that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. And these horripilations might be tears flowing from the eyes, hair standing on end, shivers up and down the back, choked voice. Whenever we think about the object of love, we're overwhelmed with that feeling of love for the Lord. So he had that. And even as a child, he had no interest in playing with childish things, right? He wasn't interested in that. So I've got a song that says, it's time to put away childish things. It's time to find a brand new song to sing. It's time to feel the love that you bring wash over me. Right? So that's what we want. We want to get a brand new song to sing. We want to sing the holy name of the Lord. We want to quit singing these mundane songs about shaking parts of your body. And, come on. How much of that do you really want? After a while, it's actually disgusting. So we got to get beyond some of this childish stuff and put away. Okay, these childish things. So he did that. The last notes that I have that I want to share with you guys on this was Prahlad Maharaj is quoted as being, anytime you think of a great devotee, Prahlad Maharaj is generally one of the very first ones that has come up throughout all history. And you can eulogize Prahlad Maharaj as much as you want, because he didn't even ask it for anything for himself. Later, you're going to find that out in his story. The Lord wanted to give him a boon. He didn't want anything. He wanted to save his own father who was trying to kill him. That's all he wanted. So Jesus Christ hanging on the cross, they're sticking him with swords and stuff, crown of thorns, and just forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. So this is the mood of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava has love and kindness for all creatures and realizes that he is not this material body. You got a point, Vamsi?
Yes, Prabhuji. So one point from the verses about Prahlad Maharaj is he is thinking about Krishna, and Krishna is not yet introduced yet, and this is still Satya Yuga, but we know that Krishna is Samam Bonam and the source of all sources, and usually people say, "Oh, Krishna is just an incarnation of Vishnu," but this proves that Prahlad, who has not even seen the pastimes of Krishna, is worshipping Krishna. So that means Krishna is eternal, and he's worshipped in all yugas, not just Treta Yuga. Dwapara Yuga.
Don't you remember when in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna questions Krishna and he says, how is it possible you spoke to this sun god?
Mm-hmm.
Sun god's senior to you by birth. How can I understand such a thing? So the first thing Krishna says, many, many births you and I have both had, but I can remember them all, you cannot. Right? So this is eternal. This is going on in trillions of universes simultaneously. These stories are eternal, and they're there for our benefit. Krishna displays these pastimes so that we can become attracted to the spiritual world. So, yeah, very good point, though. Excellent point there. And I guess the symptoms of this attraction or attachment to the Lord, it's like the ripened fruit of the bhakti yoga process, is to feel that love of God emotionally, feel that throughout your body, to have that attraction for the Lord, like you have so many objects of the senses in the past. Could have been a woman, could have been a child, could have been a parent, could have been a friend, could have been a dog. I mean, these people are in love with their dogs. I'm just being honest. They're in love with their dogs and the cats, and that's okay. I mean, okay, as long as you have some connection with Krishna, with the whole thing, everything's beautiful. But they're doing these things, worshiping these creatures. They're following the animal around, picking up its stool for him, and I'm just saying, if you can love a dog, certainly you can love God. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, because God is the source of dog, he's the source of everything that you see. So whatever little spark of splendor you're attracted to, particularly in the material world, you should understand that runs to Krishna. Just like Bhishma said, let my attraction run to Krishna while he was dying. So while we're living, let our attraction run to Krishna. That's the idea. And so Yudhisthira was blown away. He couldn't understand what the heck was going on. He was like, how is it possible that a father would want to kill his son? This is beyond my experience. I've never heard of such a thing. It was fantastic. The thought of it was fantastic to him. He couldn't believe it. So the next chapter, he set it up for us to find out how is it that this could possibly happen to such a well-behaved, wonderful child who even showed all respect to his father, and still his father wanted to kill him. So how could you be that envious? He couldn't even get his mind around this. So he's asking that question for the next chapter, and that's what we're setting it up. But I want you to know one thing, that in all of the Vedas, you'll find that the actual conclusion of all of the Shastras, everywhere, is that yes, you can study, yeah, you can do austerities, yes, you can do penances, yes, you can do elaborate temple worship, yes, you can do I can name all this stuff. You can stand in the water up to God, here at the source of the gods. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay. You can understand the impersonal aspect of God. You can understand Paramama. But until you get to Bhagavan and until you get to Bhagavat Dharma, you have missed the point. This is a love thing. This whole thing is about love. This whole thing is about sharing a relationship of love. That's what this is created for. Okay? And what we've done, we've tried to steal it from God and run off and hide underneath some bush somewhere and try to enjoy it like misers, and when hopefully nobody comes around, We're just going to eat it all up. We're going to try to enjoy it, just like it says Hiranyakasipu, although fully enjoying all of his opulences, still not satisfied. That's our story. That's the same story we're living in. So these stories of the Vedas are as timeless and as appropriate today as they ever were. I have a song, it says, the ancient practice still remains. Recite his stories, sing his names. It's as vital now as it was in the ancient days, because his adventures thrill our hearts and minds. They teach us Krishna's love divine, and he dances in each heart where he is enthroned as the king. So let's do that. Let's enthrone Krishna in our heart. And in doing so, we will develop all these wonderful virtues of godly men because we're associating directly with God. So that's my story, guys, for the night. You got anything else, Vangsa, you want to add to that? Or Rangavati or anybody?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Great 2 chapters, I'll tell you that. I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
Man, what's better? I mean, there should be 8 billion people here sharing this story and sharing this reading. Where the hell is everybody?
Yeah.
The world is...
Prabhu would like to hear these stories every time, right? Like he kept on hearing the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, and every time it's fresh for him. So it's always nice to hear these wonderful devotees' stories again and again.
Yeah, these are not static stories of mundane situations. These are dynamic, eternally dynamic, live. They're living stories because they have fresh meaning. These stories are pregnant with knowledge and meaning and love and profound realization of why we're here, who put us here, what we're supposed to be doing here. Tato Brahma Jigasa, this is the point. We're here to know who we are, to know who is God, to develop that relationship, and to enjoy. Why? It says in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the wise don't partake in objects of sense gratification because they're temporary in nature. Why settle for stool when you can have nice fruit? I mean, if somebody comes to you and go, here's stool, here's nice fresh fruit, which one would you like? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. The material world is dead. It's a dying place. Everyone here is dying. Everyone, everything. So it's not a place for a lady or a gentleman, Prabhupada said. Not a place for a lady or a gentleman. We're not being negative, we're being factual. So there's a better place beyond here. Krishna says, yes, but there's another nature which is transcendental to this material existence, which it remains even after all this is dissolved. And that place is the place I'm trying to get you back to. That's what Krishna is doing. He's trying to get you back home so we can have some fun. The eternal festival awaits. So don't dally. Get on the party bus with the Hare Krishna devotees. We just had a wonderful time down in Little Rock, man, dancing in the streets, buddy.
Yeah.
There'll be dancing in the streets. Boy, that felt good. And the Lord comes out, bestows his magnanimity on all of Little Rock or whatever town he happens to be in. And, that ecstasy lasts for a long time. it keeps us going all year long, you know. So that was very wonderful. We want to do it in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, yes, we need to do it.
Yeah, we're going to do it over in Augusta too, right? But Rama Raghava, he's dealing with the lights are out.
All
So
right.
let's collectively we pray for all those suffering souls over in the eastern part of the USA, in the mountains and in Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. We pray that all those souls that lost a life can somehow or another be brought into the fold, and either take another birth in the family of devotees, and make progress on their spiritual life. Go right back home, back to Godhead. Maybe they've taken prashadam. Maybe they've got a book. Maybe who knows? Who knows who these people are? And they'll be here for the Chaitanya era, helping us spread this information if they come back in another body. Think about it.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the picture of Hiranyakasipu doing his penance with his hands up in the air and the fire going off from his hair.
Imagine that.
And then Brahma coming when he's full of
Right there.
yeah,
That one.
this one.
Yeah. There comes Brahma.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a ride like Garuda. He's got a swan carrier. Come on. Guys are flying all over the universe. They don't have any problems. They don't have to be controlled like we do. They're not going to break the law. They're carrying out the law for the Lord. So that's well, you guys are great. I feel honored to be in your association. Vangsi, thank you very much for being a part of our program. You're such a wonderful part of our program now. You know, I don't know. I think you're indispensable to us now. All right.
Try my best to come.
Might have an obligation here to us now because we need your association.
I'll be gone for 2 weeks. To Mayapur actually. Like I have to go to India for work, so I go away in Mayapur. So I'll miss 1 or 2 classes, but I'll be back.
Well, that's fine. Bring back the mercy when you come.
Wonderful. Going to Sri Mayapur.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji, I did some donation. What you said about the cleaning.
Oh yes,
that was very good initiative. So thank you for sharing.
oh
that.
good, thank you. Because I did as well. I'm sponsoring a worker for a whole week at the moment. Yeah, so they can get a worker to work for the whole week.
What a coincidence! That's what I did too.
That's what you did. That's good. So that worker then can work for 2 weeks now. And they get a lot of cleaning up do, and they plant a lot of trees. So it's really good. It's really good.
That's required.
That's beautiful, guys. Well, you guys are fantastic. So grateful to have your association this evening. And it's 8:31, so I think we better just sign off until we, burn out somebody with this, probably, if we're not careful. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hi, thank you so much for being here. And we're going to sign off this program now. See you next time.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bird.